On the forum of Mubahith. We welcome you, everybody. Today we have our guest, Dr. Sajid Rahim, who is a consultant psychiatrist by profession with 2 decades of experience, a course position in grading. He has an MCPS and an FCPS in psychiatry, which are the highest degrees in Pakistan. He has numerous local and international publications to his credit, including a book on psychotrauma in resource-constrained countries. He has delivered lectures, conducted seminars, and workshops in major educational institutions of Pakistan, including Karachi University, Bahria University, Zabest, Fatma Jana Women University, Islamia University Bahawalpur, and Peshawar. In addition to regularly conducting mental health awareness, stress management, emotional intelligence, autism, awareness, parenting, and matrimonial health in military setups. In addition to him being a distinguished mental health expert and advocate of mental health, he is a celebrated Urdu poet for the past 2 decades. He has authored 2 Urdu books of his poetry, एक दीवार गिराता हूँ और किसी और का दुख, which have been a major hit in Pakistan. And एक दीवार गिराता हूँ was granted the Best Book of the Year award by National Library of Pakistan in 2021. Along with that, Kisi Aur Ka Dukh was a massive success in Pakistan, and he currently practices in Peshawar as a head of psychiatry department. So, with this small introduction, I would also like to say that, it's an honor being a friend with him for the past more than 25 years, 27 years actually. Although he's my senior, but it's nice of him that he takes me as a friend. So, over to you, Sir Sajid.
जी बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। थैंक यू वेरी मच उमर। हम किसी न किसी फोरम पे कनेक्ट करते रहते हैं और इस दफा आपने सोचा कि जूम पे कनेक्ट कर लिया जाए। आई एम डीपली ग्रेटफुल टू मोबाइल सॉल्यूशंस for inviting me for this particular talk that we are about to have. My salam to all the people who are listening. Without wasting any further time, let us straight away come to the topic. And today, the title was already there: the home, the house, or the haunted place. Why some marriages feel like heaven, some feel like habit, and some feel like horror movies. So it is my first experience as well online. So बहुत सारे gestures जो हैं, they're going to be unique for me too. So please excuse my idiosyncrasies here and there, because consistently looking on screen for a psychiatrist, generally speaking, is not a very common or a usual practice. Anyway, and also it is like I'm talking into space because I cannot see anyone. I can imagine, and I would want you to imagine the very same thing as if we are in the very same room. So let it be, let us generate that feeling amongst us so that we feel connected and we stay connected as well. Um, Coming straight to the topic, let me give you a brief outline of what we are going to talk about. We're going to talk about one relationship, that is marriage, two people in it, three states, that is the home, the house, or the haunted place, maybe four horsemen, which actually destroy and ruin the relationship, five ground rules, six, the digit of six, the magic ratio, seven guiding principles, and the goal is to achieve the eight, which is that eternity symbol. So this is one to eight. Hopefully, we are going to be done with it in the next 45 to 50 minutes. Let's see. But before I begin, I want you to imagine a place, a structure with four walls, two people inside. It might be filled with laughter, or there may be silence, or it may be too quiet, a little too quiet, or maybe there are voices, not phrased in songs, but in sharp, stinging syllables. You walk inside and you feel suffocated. Is this a home, a house, or a haunted place? I'm a psychiatrist, as my very dear friend Umar just mentioned, and I have spent past 2 decades sitting with people in their most raw, intimate, and painful moments of their lives. Many of these moments have actually happened between people who once promised each other everything, because all relationships started with a similar hope, a dream, and a silent agreement that, oh, we would be different. We would not be like all those couples, who sleep in silence, who fight over salt in the food, or who forget each other's eyes. We will build home. And yet, I'm a witness to many such situations where I have sat across people who were now looking at each other like strangers. I don't want to say perfect strangers, or maybe even ghosts, some whispering, some yelling, some not saying anything at all. But all of them had a lingering question in their eyes. What have we done to ourselves? Can we ever go back? Can we ever go back to that promised place, that silent agreement place which we once called home? So today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to talk about marriage. Not the ceremony or the dress or the Instagram photos, but what actually happens when two people start to live together, come together in that situation, and share the same emotional space. So I want to take you on a journey which is not just emotion, which is not just about emotion, but it is of psychology, but it if you have ever felt love fade, if you have ever felt your partner more like a roommate than a soul connection, if you ever felt haunted by the things that you can't even name, then this talk is for you. But before I get into those, to ask yourself a question: where is your relationship right now? And do you really want to go back to what you actually once dreamed of? Coming to uh, the third part, and that is the home, the house, or the haunted place. Let's start with the house, the structure, the contract, to-do lists, managing logistics, tax returns, diaper schedules, Netflix accounts, who earns, who governs, who yearns, who learns, all that, all that in a house. Every culture comes with a design of marriage, and we are generally handed over that blueprint. It is invisible, but we do inherit us. The parents, the religion, the films, they give us that blueprint. This is how our marriage is. This is what a husband does. Actually felt more like, your marriage felt more like a job than a joy. The husband replied, when we became parents. The wife said, when we stopped being lovers, and both were right. They did build a house, but they forgot a home. The house is necessary because it gives you the structure, it gives you the shape, it gives you the function. But many a couples actually co-own a property, co-own a geographical structure where they are managing logistics, where they are raising children, where they are sharing bills, but without ever feeling emotionally co-owned. Now, one of the theories, which is the pillars of modern psychology, attachment theory, it tells us that we are wired to have a connection, to secure bonds, not just function, but a connection. But when a marriage becomes merely a house, where there's, without warmth, without attunement, it becomes cold, sometimes even hostile. One of my very favorite psychotherapists, amongst others, like Irvin Yalom, is Ishtar Perel. And he once said that majority of the people, they actually in their lifetime, they actually marry twice or thrice, and sometimes they marry the very same person again and again. But to do so, the house must evolve. That is, and must evolve into a home. Now, house is what we build. Home is home is what we feel, because home is a feeling. It's where someone sees you. It's where you can drop the performance. It's where you can be messy and still feel loved. It's where you can be silent and still feel heard. It's where you can actually argue and still feel safe. It's where your wounds are met with care and with presence. So the very same attachment theory that I was referring to, the pioneer of it was John Bowlby, and he said that we, as humans, we need a secure base. Yet we see that many partners feel unseen today. They make bids for connections and their partner ignore. So there is a sigh which the partner ignores. There's a glance which is not returned. There is a vulnerability which is actually met with advice and not sympathy. Reminds me of a person from one of my therapy sessions, and she said, "He doesn't hurt me. He just isn't with me," which right now straight away reminds me of one of my verses, कि इकट्ठे हैं मगर ये तय नहीं है, मोहब्बत थी नहीं थी, है नहीं है. And that is one of the reasons why this topic is so very close to my heart, because one of the most important scientific studies, actually the longest one, began in 1938. The findings started to come out in 2013. What they actually concluded was that the single most important predictive factor for a good life is one, close connection. And generally speaking, the people I'm talking to, they belong to my very culture. So in our culture, predominantly that one close connection is sought after by our partner. That is exactly what we look for. That is exactly what we have dreamed of. All our songs are about it. Like, Tumi mere mandir, Tumi meri puja, Tumi devta ho, and so on and so forth. And majority of the themes, even in our poetry, they are all related to this very one person who feels like home. And we want to build a geographical home with the very same person. But what generally is happening these days, and more often than not, more often than before, it is that we can still sleep in the same bed, raise the same children, and मकान में रोते हुए अकेला था, मैं इतने लोगों के होते हुए अकेला था. So now that feeling, that I have actually used the word makan. I have not used the word घर, and I have actually used the word इतने. हालांकि वही नुक्ते अगर मैं नीचे करके एक एक्स्ट्रा लगा देता तो वो अपने भी हो सकता था. But probably that is exactly how It must have been expressed at that point in time. It must have been felt. I was just a vessel. Probably I must have absorbed it from somewhere and then um, let it out there for all of you to read. So this was exactly what it was. Bhare makan mein. So it was apparently all filled. रोते हुए अकेला था. So that is that utter aloneness that we sometimes experience. Biggest, but when the home is strong, the house can weather anything. But without a home, even the most perfect house collapses. The single most biggest predictor of marital satisfaction, ladies and gentlemen, is not financial stability. It's not romance. That मैंने ये जाना कि गोया ये भी मेरे दिल में. It is like that connection, that the word of we coming together, we moving from me and you to we. That is what um, that emotional attunement is what makes a home a home. And home can weather any storms. Let me say it again. So the house was what we built. The home is what we feel. What about the haunted place? The haunted place is what we carry. Yeah, what we carry. So in a haunted place is the one where pain lives in every room, where intimacy has become unsafe, where silences are louder than screams, where trauma from the past, sometimes it is in the space, I'll talk about it, but sometimes trauma from the past, um, unhealed childhood wounds, betrayals, losses, it has actually seeped into every fabric of the relationship. So I once worked with a couple, where the husband had cheated, um, and the wife said, it's like he brought someone else into our bedroom and never left. Really quiet, no fight, no argument, just silence, just distance, no affection. Like ghosts, walking down in separate hallways. All you can see there is blame, silence, pain, resentment, distance, anger. That is how a haunted place is like. कहीं resentment के जाले हैं, कहीं anger के अंधेरे हैं, आग अंधेरे anger के आग है, और कहीं silence के अंधेरे हैं. And where you are actually walking, so how do you actually feel when you visit a haunted place? That is exactly how you feel when a home is turned into a haunted place. And when I refer to home, I'm talking about marriage. So when a marriage feels like that, उसमें भी बहुत सारे जाले लग जाते हैं. uh, उसमें भी बहुत सारी जगहों पर अंधेरे होते हैं. उसमें भी बहुत सारी जगहों पर कोई ना कोई आग लगी हुई होती है जिसकी तरफ हम तवज्जो नहीं दे पा रहे. So sometimes that a partner carries the trauma, carries. There is emotional abuse, sometimes there is neglect, sometimes there is gaslighting, where one partner is, rewriting the story and the other partner is actually catching for his reality, is actually started to doubt his own reality. But there are cases, these are the cases sometimes where the marriage survives, if it survives. The marriage survives, but at the cost of the erosion of self. So as a psychiatrist, I have walked into um, many such buildings which were picture perfect from the outside, like white picket fences. But when you enter, you find two people living there, living parallel, separate lives with no connection in them, sleeping in the same room, all miles apart. I hope I've elaborated this concept of the home, the house, or the haunted place. So, in the nutshell, what do you see? A home is a place which is warm, where you feel the warmth, where you feel the connection. The atmosphere is friendly. The communication is open. A, a house is functional, structured, routines, logistics, but no feeling. And a haunted place is filled with unresolved conflicts, fear, criticism, resentment, emotional abuse, anger, pain, disgust. But how do we reach there? Well, what goes wrong? Let me tell you, whatever um, it doesn't. The erosion is always quiet. It doesn't happen over. You know, marriages do not explode. They always erode slowly. Word by word, eye roll by eye roll. You notice that you don't actually notice any change. You don't even feel that change until one day you find that the ground beneath your feet is actually cracking. So it's not just one thing, it's a thousand small ones that go unseen. So erosion is quiet. This is the message that I want to communicate. You forget to say thank you. Did you hear what I just said? Oh, I'm busy. Not now. An apology that was never offered, a compliment that was not made, a nod that was ignored. So, or you were probably distracted in your own things. All these small little things, when you actually start assuming and stop listening, and soon the marriage becomes not a connection, but a contract. But how do things begin to go wrong? Generally, there are some unresolved conflicts. Sometimes there are role confusions. Sometimes there are traumas. Sometimes there is, but the single biggest factor probably is miscommunication, poor communication. The experts on relationships, they actually, they used. I hope many of you are actually conversant with the concept of apocalypse and the horsemen. It is a biblical concept, but they've used it in the relationships as well. So the four things that they actually came out was the four things they came up with, which they called four horsemen of marriage or four horsemen of apocalypse in a relationship. They are criticism. That is the first. Now, what happens within the relationship? That is what I'm about to talk. But I just thought probably before we get into the relationship, while we are still at the haunted thing, I believe I mentioned about when the sometimes the haunted is historical as well. So how about I explain that a bit more before moving to what happens within the relationship, because we are carrying the things from the past. So some couples, they're just not struggling with each other. They are actually struggling with the load, the burden that they have been carrying from their past into the relationship. Say like their childhood wounds, the abandonment, the chaos, the pain that they never had word for. So they aren't just stories of the past. They actually aren't just stories of the past. They shape how we feel. They shape how we love. They shape how we connect. They shape how we. If a partner is just shut down, he's not being cold, maybe. Maybe he actually learned early in his life that emotions are dangerous. Or if a partner is explosive, so he's not just being cruel. Maybe he is trying to protect himself from another abandonment, or maybe he's, whatever has happened in the past, your partner is overreacting, but he's not just reacting to you. Okay, so questions. I hope I am not supposed to read the questions. Dr. Omar will look after that, and
I'm just noting all
I'll
the questions, sir.
respond
Please
to
carry
that
on.
at the end. So okay, thank you. So you may think your partner is overreacting, but he's not reacting to you. They might be reacting to the echoes of a parent who never listened, to the fear of not being enough, to the heartbreak that came actually long before you. Old wounds or old ghosts, they actually enter the present. And instead of then a partnership, you feel possession. So instead of dialogue, you actually feel danger. That is when the haunted is historical. But when it comes to two people, living together, so what goes wrong there? I actually, I about whether a relationship will end up in a divorce or not. And you don't need to be a psychic for that. You only need to be looking for the very same horsemen that I just mentioned moments ago. If you find those horsemen in a relationship, they have walked into that relationship, um, the relationship is already in serious jeopardy. So the very first relationship that I talked about was, the very first point that I talked about was, I'm giving a quick recap. We have talked about one marriage, we have talked about two people, we have talked about three states, and now we are moving to the four horsemen. The very first was criticism, the finger of blame. And destructive criticism, or a positive criticism, or a negative criticism. But generally, the word has a negative connotation, because if there is a positive criticism, we generally call it feedback. So for this purpose of discussion, I'm referring to criticism in a negative way. And criticism is when you are actually attacking the person and not the problem, in the simplest possible ways. I'm trying to keep it. And not the problem. So say, for example, when you say, oh, you never care about me, in that very sentence, what have you just done? You could have actually said, I felt hurt when you forgot. So, you asked something. Or maybe it was a birthday that was forgotten. So you could have said, I felt hurt when you forgot. You ended up saying, you never care about me. So we are not talking about the problem here. We are actually attacking the partner or the person. You could have said, I feel overwhelmed. Can you help me with this? But you end up saying, oh, you never help me. So you never help me, you never care about me, you never listen, you never think about anyone but yourself. That is what is criticism. I could have said, I feel unheard when I'm talking to you. You were looking here and there. But I would actually say, I would end up saying, you never listen. So now, this is what is criticism. And that is the first very, very important. How is he going to take it? He is going to perceive it as an attack. So then comes the next. When we feel attacked or when we are under attack, it is but natural that we are going to try to defend ourselves. So that is the second problem, the second horseman, which is defensiveness. But when, you can very easily say, Acha, theek hai. ये वो response है. Anybody who is going to feel attacked is supposed to defend himself. Agreed, taken, natural, automatic response. Having said that, but when it turns into something else, and that is when you try to shift the blame, or when you counter blame, or when you counter attack, that is where we get stuck into this attack defense cycle. So there is this one partner who is critical, the other partner who is defensive. So what happens when the other partner is defensive? How is that going to make the first partner feel, the one who was being critical? He is going to perceive this defensiveness or this counter attack or a counter blame, or you always start. This is one of the ways of defensiveness. Oh, what did I do again? Or it's not my fault. You always started. Or you also did this in the past. All these things, they are coming in the defensiveness. So now the first partner is actually going to feel dismissed. Whatever he brought forward, or you never listen, or you don't care, or you only care about yourself and stuff, the other partner says you do the same. So now the first partner is actually feeling dismissed. So if he is being dismissed, or he's not feeling heard either, what is he going to do? He's actually going to come louder. you know it is, you are actually grown apart, so the other person is at a distance. So how do you talk to a person who is at a geographical distance from you? You yell, you shout, you scream. And that is why. And how do you talk? How do two people talk when they are close to each other? They talk in a very low tone. And the closest they are, they can actually whisper. So the space between, the distance between two people is filled with noises, is filled with yellings and shoutings and blames and stuff. So then this attack defense cycle, that consistently, if it keeps happening, if it's a daily thing, or if it's a very frequent happening in a relationship, it is actually eroding the sense of connection. It is reducing it to a contract. And later on, that contract will actually, then contract will contract and ultimately become invisible. So the two horsemen, criticism, defensiveness. The third one, which is actually the most dangerous, and according to scientific data, uh, you know, the couple researchers, they found out that if they picked up this third horseman in a relationship, they predicted a divorce rate of 95% within 6 years of marriage. So the marriage would actually absolve within 6 years if this particular horseman was there. All four are very dangerous, but this leads from the front. And this is contempt. So if only this one particular word stays with us, I believe we must have done the job. And that is contempt. It is the biggest marriage killer, the most toxic, the most dangerous. It burns. It's the fire. But what is contempt? It shows up as what? Sarcasm, eye roll, mockery, superiority, disdain, disrespect, disgrace, disgust. All this. It says I'm better than you. It says you are shit. You are crap. It just doesn't kill the moment. It actually kills the relationship, kills the respect in the relationship. The other day I was talking in a different podcast, and I said, if love is the fire, respect is the oxygen. So now you can imagine if I use the very same metaphor here. So I just said it kills the respect. So you are actually taking the oxygen out. So if you're taking the oxygen out, love is gone. And that is where it becomes the most dangerous, because you feel completely suffocated. It's like, I just recalled, that it was making headlines 2 3 days ago, when probably one of the prime ministers of a European nation, and she had rolled eyes on uh, POTUS. So if he had rolled eyes on POTUS, it made headlines because that was like sarcastic, that was like disrespectful or whatever. But that was coming from a point of contempt, and that is why it made headlines. Or sometimes you say, "Oh, please," or when you say, "Hmm," or you just look away, "Hmm," and you're like, "आपको समझ आ ही ना जाए," or you would like you understand. You must have forgotten. Typical you. You're so lazy. All that. This is what contempt is. And last but not the least, that is stonewalling. Stonewalling is what? Stonewalling is when you actually um, completely shut down. The word is descriptive in its own self. So it is like you are stonewalled. Um, it is not that stoning which happens with a particular substance. You are actually stonewalled. So how often we have heard this sentence? मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है जैसे मैं किसी दीवार से बात कर रहा हूँ या उनके कान पर जूं तक नहीं रेंगी या उनका मुझे तो लगता है मेरी आवाज ही उस तक नहीं पहुंच रही है. All those sentences, that is actually what stonewalling is. So shutting down emotionally, the complete withdrawal, or just walking away without resolving, not even asking or not even telling that there ever will be a way back, or just simply saying fine, or just simply saying whatever, do what you want, all that thing, that is stonewalling. So the summary is the criticism poisons, contempt burns, defensiveness walls you in, and stonewalling freezes love. So these are the four horsemen that actually destroy the marital relationship practically, that destroys any relationship. But because we are talking about marital relationship, that is why I'm focused on that. But if moving to the ground rules, what if we had um, you know rules not to control love but to guide or but to protect it, not rigid laws but gentle reminders. I use certain principles in my therapy, and I'm sure I've seen few psychiatrists here and asking questions, so they must be using the very same principles in their own therapy. So I'm just putting them out. The very first is connect before you correct. The very first rule is connect before you correct. So it's like warming up the car before you actually drive. It's like when someone feels emotionally connected, they are more actually open to feedback. So two of the surgeon friends here, so they are like, prepare the patient for operation. And there is a lot of preparation that goes before you actually operate on the patient. And majority of those things are actually make the person feel okay and comfortable and allowed and allowing us to expose him and then to incise him. But how's that done is through connection. So that connection is the anesthesia. And connection is achieved through communication. The communication is that anesthetic agent which actually brings us to connection. So whenever you are supposed you are correcting, trying to correct somebody, अक्सर ही मैं तो तुम्हारे फायदे की बात कर रहा हूँ, नहीं तो बंदा अब ये भी ना बताए, या मैं नहीं बताऊंगा तो कौन बताएगा, या मैं तो सिर्फ इतना ही बताया है. But it is how and when and why you did it. But just before the next time you are about to correct your partner, ask yourself, so have you connected with what they are actually feeling, or you just barged into it? Because when a person feels connected, then they find themselves more open to change, for a real change. That is the first rule: connect before you correct. The second rule is ask, don't assume. Because assumptions are they are the termites of relationships. They are the silent assassins of intimacy. When we don't ask, we often assume we know that what other person must be thinking or what other person must be feeling. Majority of the time, we don't. We as therapists or psychiatrists are frequently ask this question. Do you actually get to know what the other person is thinking or what is going on in their head or mind? Let me tell you guys the secret. We don't. We simply don't. Because we need to ask before we can actually get to know what the other person is thinking or what the other person is feeling. So always ask what the other person meant. Just yesterday, this very quick example, I was talking to somebody. So she just came out of an exam and didn't went well. So what she texted me and she said um, bad scene and stuff, and then she felt so she said, I'm lonely. I responded to her and I said, you are not alone. So I said, you are not alone. Would you believe what she meant by it? She responded me, I hope you are not talking about yourself. Now, just imagine. I wanted to communicate. Later on, when we talked, we found out I wanted to communicate that you are not alone in this situation. You have me. We can talk about it, and don't, you know. So your feeling of loneliness. Let us sort that out. How she interpreted it and did not ask me and assumed was that I'm saying, ओ सिर्फ तुम्हारे साथ ही नहीं हुआ और भी बड़ी दुनिया बाकियों के भी हालात बड़े खराब चल रहे हैं. And that actually made her say that, oh, I hope you're not talking about yourself. So now she was coming from a point of care that I hope everything is well on my end. But the way I had said it, now keep that in mind and now look at the response. And it is like, so I could have actually felt that here I am telling her, offering her the hand and telling her that you are not alone. And there she is, and he's like, oh, I don't need you. I hope you are not talking about yourself. I actually need that person or that thing. So that is where I paused. I did not respond to that. I would rather be like, okay, let me be sure first. What does the other person exactly mean by it when she said that? So ask what they mean, ask how they feel, ask what they need. That shows care, that bridges the gap. So connect before you correct, ask, don't assume. The third rule is be curious, not furious. Because marriage is not a courtroom, it's a classroom. Instead of accusing, ask, help me understand. Instead of reacting with anger, respond with curiosity. What pain is behind this behavior? When you are curious about that thing, it actually softens the defenses. I was probably teaching yesterday, and I said, whenever the moment you acknowledge or recognize the other person's emotions, and you see visibly upset, I can see that you are angry. I wonder what is making you feel this very way. Now I'm approaching that very particular thing with a sense of curiosity rather than being furious, because reactivity, what happens? Reactivity builds walls. It changes the whole connection. And curiosity actually softens the defenses. The fourth rule is compliment, don't complain. Appreciation is the daily vitamin. Daily vitamin. Withhold it, and the relationship starves. So let me tell you, whenever you ask somebody, any people who are married, whenever you ask them, how many kids do you have? So if they tell you two, tell them you have three. So if you guys are married, if you have one kid, you actually have got two, not one. The very first baby that you guys have is your relationship. And it actually requires the very same kind of love, compassion, nurturance, genuineness, warmth. It has its own needs. One of them is, you keep appreciating your child all the time. You keep looking for the reasons to find, to do that thing. Oh, he's so cute. Oh, he's so intelligent. Oh, he's growing. Oh, he's super smart. Oh, he knows this. so on and so forth. Same goes for your relationship. So every time that you actually make a compliment, you are actually submitting something into your emotional bank account. Every time you are making a complaint, you are actually making a withdrawal. So even if you have to make a complaint, and which of course it happens in relationships, no relationship is without fights. But if you have enough in the deposit, even if you withdraw some at some point in time, in the hour of the need, it still doesn't disturb your balance. You're not running short of your emotional currency. So keep depositing. Keep depositing as often as you can. The last is complete, don't compete. Because once again, marriage is a sport game. Competition, wherever it is, it breeds resentment. It is not a scoreboard. You don't win when your partner loses. Um, Reminds me of the very same verse that I put up today on Facebook. इसलिए तुझसे हार जाते हैं, हम तेरी हार सह नहीं पाते, something like that. I cannot clear, but I guess this was इसलिए तुझसे हार जाते हैं, हम तेरी हार सह नहीं पाते. Okay, so these 5 things. The 6 is the magic ratio of 5:1. That is, once again, it is a scientific ratio, not my magic ratio. The scientific ratio is that for every single negative interaction that you have with your partner or spouse, you need to actually have 5 positive. Thank you, Janzit. Yes, इसलिए तुझसे हार जाते हैं, हम तेरी हार सह नहीं पाते. Okay. So for every single negative interaction, you actually need to have 5 positive interaction to rule that out in the form of a compliment, in the form of a gesture, in the form of a token of appreciation, whatever your love language is. But for every one negative interaction, you actually need to have 5 positive interaction. That is the ratio, and that makes it, if that is happening, you have hit a 6. If that is not, you have actually gone for a 6. Coming to the 7 guiding principles of how to navigate through all these horseman things and all this, how to make it actually a home, upgraded from house or a haunted place. There are 7 guiding principles. The very first is enhance your love maps. So your partners are like your Google Maps. You consistently need to update it. If you don't, you'll lose the way. So what is it? What are the love maps? The love map is actually knowing your partner actually truly and deeply, knowing what are their likes, what are their dislikes, what triggers them, what makes them feel happy and joyous. How many of you actually know what was the favorite childhood snack of your partner? If you don't, you need to update your love map. And let me give you an example of an outdated love map. Say, for example, your partner told you or your wife told you 5 years ago that she likes white roses, and you bring red roses even today. You need some serious updating. The very first part is enhance your love maps. The second is nurture fondness and admiration. I've talked about it already in the guiding principles, but now I've used the word nurture fondness and admiration. So when you nurture something, after some time, it becomes automatic. That is the difference. एक है appreciate करना at one point in time. एक that we develop or we nurture that fondness for each other. If you say, for example, if you can't name 3 things that you admire about your partner right now, pause. That is where you probably need to do more. The third is turn towards each other. There are 3 options. You can turn toward each other, you can turn away from each other, or you can turn against each other. The recommendation is you turn towards each other. If you are in a home, you turn toward each other. If you are in a house, you turn away from each other. If you are in a haunted place, you turn against each other. Turning towards each other is like bid for connection. A very important word, a very important word, a very dear word to my heart as well. And it is, people make bids for connection. Never refuse that. We can fight. But if somebody is making a bid for connection after that, don't refuse it. Scientific data actually tells that 86% of the people responded to the bids for connection who were happily married, compared to those who got divorced. They only responded 30% of the time. So they missed two and responded to one. It is like when your partner says, "Oh, see this video," and you're like, "Hmm." Or when he says, "Oh, look at that bird outside the window," and you're like, "Okay." So all these small little things, or the very same word, "मैं कैसी लग रही हूँ?" या फातिमा, लाख बेहतर है जमाने की खबर रखने से। एक ही शख्स के हर दुख से शनासा होना is like enhancing your love map. Yes, that is एक ही हर दुख से शनासा होना. That was coming out of the love map. Okay, and then let your partner, particularly in our culture, bhai, let your partner influence you. It's in the small moments, reaching for their hand, asking about their day, that the bridge is built, and let them influence you. Let consider, let's be considerate. Let's ask about their opinion. Let's adapt to their ideas, and it's perfectly okay. You don't need to be consistently governing a relationship. You don't need to be consistently calling all the shots, because in the long run, it is, as I already mentioned, it is a team sport. So 4 principles that I have just said. Okay, now there are distractors coming, but I'll stay focused. Hannah has just said some distraction. Okay, so solve solvable problems. The fifth is solve solvable. Enhance your love maps, nurture fondness and admiration, turn towards each other, let your partner influence you, solve solvable problems. And not, you don't need a bulldozer to actually fix a dripping tap. So there are many problems which can be solved. And if they could be solved, um, just get them out of your way. And you don't need big things. Now, not every argument is about the surface issue also. You sometimes need to see what is happening underneath. But you need to solve the problems. And that happens with soft startups, that happens with gentle conversations, that happens with allowing each other some room, that happens with fair compromises. Solve solvable problems. Why? Because there are certain problems which never have a solution. And that is the next point. That such problems are called gridlocks. Once again, the scientific data says that 63% of the fights that happen between partners are about problems which do not have a solution. When the fight keeps repeating, actually look for the buried values beneath them. What are you really trying to protect as a person, or what is your partner is really trying to protect as a person? But even if they are unsolvable problems, even if those doors are locked forever, that does not mean we cannot do anything about it. The best possible way would be sit outside that door together and have a great time. You don't need to force to lock that door. And whenever those problems are there, it is not about the superficial or the apparent thing. There is a hidden meaning behind that. Get to that meaning, and we can still agree to disagree, and we can still understand each other's perspective. Sometimes, like some religious values, or which profession to choose, or how to raise a child, the parenting principles, or how to interact with each other's in-laws and stuff. These are those areas, the gridlocks. One person is very sensitive about it, the other person is completely offensive about it. So actually, either of the people are actually trying to protect something which is beneath that. And there is a dream behind that. We need to figure out. as friends, in our partnership, what actually is there beneath that, which we need to work. The last seventh point is, um, create a shared meaning. Your relationship is a canvas, paint it together. You must have seen people who are in a very healthy or loving relationship, that they develop their own unique rituals. Maybe they go out on Sunday breakfast, maybe they have some special songs to play with, maybe they have some special rituals to celebrate their partner. When I was very young, once I read the definition of love somewhere. I don't remember who said it, but it still has stayed with me, because probably that was the best explanation that I ever got for my one of my uh, questions. And that explanation was, love is like sitting on the very same side, looking forward in the same direction, sitting on the very same side together, looking forward in the same direction. Later on, when I became a psychiatrist, that is exactly what I found. What does it mean by creating shared meanings? So these are those seven principles. Repeating it just for your memory, and that tells me, yes, anybody if who's interested, um, wants to have a flow chart or a slide form of all this kind of talk that I had, that will be available. That will be made available. We'll devise a way how to go about it. Uh, so before I finish, the eighth point, eight is the eternity. How do we reach there? How do we become those entangled particles where one particle moves, like quantum physics, where one particle moves in another universe, and it affects the other partner, or the other person here. That is how we are connected to each other. How do we get that soul connection, that bonding connection? These Avoiding those four horsemen, using those five ground rules, using that six ratio of magic, using these seven guiding principles, is सातों आसमान पूरे करके. That is how you actually reach the eighth. And what if I tell you that your marriage, you don't need to. बहुत सारे लोगों की यहाँ हसरत चलती रहती है ना, कि पता नहीं दूसरी शादी की, और अभी कल मेरे किसी दोस्त ने मुझे कहा उनको एंटी डिप्रेशन प्रिस्क्राइब हुई, और अ, उनके डॉक्टर ने उनको कहा, क्योंकि डॉक्टर साइकेट्रिस्ट नहीं थे, तो उन्होंने उनको कहा, इन्होंने पूछा कब तक लेनी है, तो और ही रिस्पॉन्डेड बाय सेइंग क़यामत से एक दिन पहले तक. इससे पहले मैंने ये वाला फिक्रा जो है वो मर्दों की शादी की ख्वाहिश के बारे में सुना था, कब खत्म होती है क़यामत से एक दिन पहले तक. बट व्हाट इफ आई टोल्ड यू, यू डिडंट नीड न्यू मैरिज, you only need a new way of being in the marriage. So your marriage, because even if it feels right now, that your marriage is broken, but it's not broken. It's just buried under the years of silence, hurt, and disconnection. So when couples stop blaming each other, and when they start becoming curious, when they replace judgment with compassion, silence with vulnerability, then something beautiful starts to emerge. So why do you always do this becomes what's hurting you beneath. When he's selfish, becomes he's scared. When I'm fine, becomes I feel unseen. Then slowly you stop living in a haunted place, stop just maintaining a house. You actually start rebuilding a home. So tonight, when you walk into your partner, don't just walk into them, walk into their presence, put down the phone, look into their eyes, and ask, what do you need to feel safe with me? What do you need to feel safe with me? Because love is not found. Love is not a feeling, it's a practice. Love is not found, it's built. And a home is not bought, it's made. One small moment at a time, brick by brick. Marriage is not a destination, it's a decision to return to forgive. It's it's not a love is not a feeling. It's a practice. It's the practice. It's the soup that you offer when they are sick. It's the silence that you hold when they are grieving. Marriage is the gift of being known and being accepted anyway. It is the decision. It is the will uh, to speak gently when you are angry. It is the choice to look at the positive things when all feel bad. And yes, sometimes, marriages develop some cracks. But if both partners are willing, if both partners are ready to repair, because you don't need a perfect partner. You don't need a partner who never hurts you. You need a partner who is ready for a repair after a rupture. That is what makes a marriage a home. Thank you, everyone. And if you guys have any questions, any personal reflections, or if you want to connect in any other way later on, I'm right here. Thank you.
सर थैंक यू सो मच। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका कि आपने हमें वक्त दिया और बहुत ही खूबसूरत आपने बातें की, सिवाय एक बात कि आपने मोबाइल की जो बात कर दी है ये दिल को नहीं लगी। बाकी ठीक है सर, कि मोबाइल रख के मतलब मोबाइल के बगैर तो काम ही नहीं चलता सर आजकल।
अच्छा, आप मोबाइल बीच में रख के बात कर लीजिएगा। मैं
सर थैंक यू वंस
ओके।
अगेन, थैंक यू सो मच। वी हैव अ लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस। मेरे पास 10 से 12 क्वेश्चन है, मैं नाम नहीं लूंगा, मैं
नो
जस्ट
आई
क्विकली आपसे वो क्वेश्चन नो आईडीज, सो आई जस्ट आस्क क्विक क्वेश्चंस। और ये कि पहला क्वेश्चन ये है कि डज इट हैव टू बी अ फिजिकल हाउस टू एग्जिस्ट in order to transition to a home? What about the distant relationships where a physical manifestation does not exist?
I guess I in the very last moment when I said when you can actually be two quantum particles living in parallel universe and you move there and somebody else makes a dance here, you don't need to be physically present for that matter. However, it is the feeling of connection. But the farther you are, let me tell you, the farther you are, there is a problem, you know. So you need to touch base. If it is a long distance forever, then it is a long thing and a distant thing anyway forever. So you need to touch base, you need to revise. अमजद ने कहा था कि उसे तजदीद ताज़ा की जरूरत फिर भी रहती है।
वाह, बहुत
या
खूबसूरत। अच्छा, कि बहुत बड़ा टॉपिक है, क्वेश्चन मैं आपको पुट फॉरवर्ड कर देता हूँ। आई नो दिस इज अ बिग टॉपिक, हाउ टू डील विद चाइल्डहुड ट्रॉमास। आई डोंट थिंक कि इसमें कवर हो सकता है, बट स्टिल अगर आप इस पे कुछ कहना चाहें।
हाउ टू डील विद चाइल्डहुड ट्रॉमास। सबसे पहली बात तो ये है कि योर पार्टनर कैन ओनली होल्ड अ स्पेस। मैं इसी रेफरेंस में जवाब दे कैन ओनली होल्ड अ स्पेस वेयर यू कैन हील योर सेल्फ, but your partners cannot be your therapist, and your partner does not have an automatic responsibility to help you or to heal you from whatever you couldn't do or whatever you have gone through in the past. It is a painful experience to actually be being exposed to trauma right when you were just starting off in this world. But I believe professional guidance, professional help is needed to resolve your childhood wounds. You do not
Excellent.
treat a fracture at
Okay.
home.
Yeah, you would never treat a fracture at home. Absolutely right. There's a question, I'm just going to short it. If a child grows up in a haunted place where things between the parents are not very good, is there a way to reduce the negative impact on the child?
Yes, of course.
What can the parents still do to give their child a healthy upbringing?
What a parent can still do. Yeah, parent can consistently, using those five guiding principles. You start doing it at any point in time. किस लिए वो मेरा ये एक शेर है कि किस लिए सीखनी मोहब्बत अब, हम तो अपनी गुजार बैठे हैं। ये सिर्फ शेर की हद तक है।
Wow.
इसका इसका हकीकत से
Wow.
कोई ताल्लुक नहीं है। मैं इसकी ऑपोजिट बिलीव करता हूँ, एंड दैट इज यू कैन लर्न टू लव एनी टाइम they grow, so when they grow, they develop the confidence in their strength. They overpower their fears. They overcome their fears. So you start providing them with the home, and the haunted place will ultimately leave their hearts.
अच्छा, ये पिछले दो क्वेश्चन से मुझे आपकी वो बचपन वाली याद आनी शुरू हो गई है। मैं आपसे आखिर में रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि आप उसके एक तो शेर भी हमें सुनाते हैं। बट फर्स्ट द क्वेश्चन, एक और क्वेश्चन है कि ओके, व्हाट अबाउट व्हेन वन पार्टनर इज टोटली अट्यून्ड, द अदर इज नॉट साइकोलॉजिकली माइंडेड और हिज वेज ऑफ कोपिंग आर डिफरेंट, डिफरेंट पर्सनालिटीज हैं, दोनों के स्ट्रेस को मैनेज करने के तरीके मुख्तलिफ हैं, तो क्या करें?
हाँ, they are supposed to be different. They are supposed to be different because they are carrying a different genetic pool. They are carrying a different history, and that is what makes the marriage beautiful, actually. And if one person is psychologically attuned and the other person is not understanding, the person, अगर ताल्लुक में आ भी जाए बिगाड़ कोई, हम अपने हिस्से का काम करने का सोचते हैं। तो आप अपने हिस्से का काम करते
क्या
रहिए,
क्या बात।
उनकी लव लैंग्वेज तब्दील हो जाएगी, और वो जैसे हैं अगर उनकी पोजीशन को भी अंडरस्टैंड कर लें, how they are, so you can and what is triggering them, you provide them with a lot of safe space, and when you provide them with a lot of space, they will start to become vulnerable. Connect before you correct. So you start connecting.
ब्यूटीफुल। अच्छा, एक और क्वेश्चन है कि हाँ, व्हेन यू आर डीलिंग विद अ नार्सिसिस्ट in marriage of 14 years and now kids and in between stress, severe stress and mood swings, I give silent treatment without solid reasons. What to do about that?
Run.
Dealing with the narcissist.
Run. I've used the word. It's as simple as that. Not all haunted places are meant to be lived forever. Not all relationships are meant to be forever. तमाम रिश्तों की मियाद एक मुकर्रर है। अब इतनी अकल तो आती है तजुर्बात के साथ।
अगर बात के साथ
तो
क्या बात।
so you need to, because मैंने कहा some many such marriages they survive but the self erodes. So you need to see the price that you are paying. Is it worth the pride? Is it worth the price? Is it worth the pain? Is it worth the pleasure? Is it worth the peace of your mind? If all these five P's are out of the window, you should be out of the door.
एब्सोल्युटली, एब्सोल्युटली, खूबसूरत बात आपने की है। अच्छा, एक और बड़ा कॉमन question, how to deal with family pressures in marriage life in case when both the husband and wife are happy but some factors from the family which affect their relationship, how we deal with them?
What happens to a home which is built earthquake resistant? It can sway, the building will swing, but it will never fall. You keep building your own relationship stronger. आपने अपने घर को अगर रेनकोट, आप आपने अपना रेनकोट ठीक रखा हुआ है, तो होती रहे ना बारिश। अब बारिश तो होगी, कभी कभार उससे कीचड़ भी हो जाएगा, कभी कभी मसला हो जाएगा। आप आपने अपने दरख्त लगाए हुए हैं तो फ्लैश फ्लडिंग नहीं होगी।
क्या बात है। खूबसूरत मिसाल आपने दी है। अच्छा, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन है कि बिसाइड स्टोन वॉलिंग एंड डिफेंस एंड क्रिटिसिज्म, हाउ टू बिल्ड कनेक्शन?
मुझे देयर वाज ब्रेक।
हाउ हाउ टू बिल्ड कनेक्शन?
हाउ टू बिल्ड कनेक्शन, step by step,
वो
by
आपने पूरी
providing
एक
the other
सीरीज बताई है
person.
मतलब।
Yes, puri CB, and you provide the other person with the space, one step at a time. Connection is also built in very small things, in very small gestures. Let the other person matter to you. When the other person starts mattering to you, you start doing the things.
ओके, अब एक दो क्वेश्चन है लेकिन मैं और भी आ रहे हैं, लेकिन मैं मेरे ख्याल टाइम बहुत ज्यादा हो गया। मैं आपसे कुछ कुछ, इज डिवोर्स द एंड ऑफ रिलेशनशिप?
Beautiful. ऐ दोस्त, हमने तरके ताल्लुक के बावजूद महसूस की है तेरी जरूरत कभी कभी।
कभी
तो
कभी।
divorce is the end of relationship as far as the physical or the legal concept is concerned. Sometimes
हम्म।
people stay there, but you never
हम्म।
stay there for long enough, because the most important principle of life is that it keeps on moving, the dynamism, the ability to keep moving forward in life. आपके दांतों के नीचे एक कड़वा बादाम आ जाए तो बादाम खाने नहीं छोड़ देते होते।
बिल्कुल सही। एक क्वेश्चन दरमियान में मिस हो गया था। I hope you please give a stepwise guideline or a thing to do, a kind of a thing to revert the haunted place back into a house or home.
I guess I already
Yeah.
have. It
ये
is
शुरू में क्वेश्चन था। शुरू में क्वेश्चन था। ओके, मैंने कहा मैं उसको बोल दूं ताकि वो मिस ना हो जाए। Okay, last question. If you have been waiting for an opportune moment to connect with your partner and now it feels like it's too late and you don't know how to move forward, please guide about this situation and how to proceed. It's just like we are attuned to each other, but we fail in communication.
the very first thing. It's never too late to come back home. It's actually never too late.
सुबह का भोला अगर शाम को घर आ जाए तो उसे भोला नहीं कहते। हाँ,
रास्ता भूलना आदत है पुरानी उसकी, यानी एक रोज वो घर भूल के आ सकता है.
क्या
It's never
बात
too
है,
late.
क्या
It's
बात
actually it's
है। हाँ,
actually never too late. It is that feeling. We have to actually overcome that feeling of it's too late. That is the obstacle to growth in this relationship. या अब किया तो क्या किया, या अब क्या हो सकता है. अब क्या हो सकता है नहीं है. क्या अब हो सकता है, हाँ सब हो सकता
बहुत खूबसूरत, बहुत खूबसूरत। और जो आपने स्टार्ट किया, आई वाज वेरी मतलब थिंकिंग ऑन दिस कि आपने ये जो कहा ना कि एक दूसरे की केयर करनी चाहिए और रिलेशनशिप में एक दूसरे का ख्याल बहुत रखना चाहिए, तो मैं आपको शेर याद आ रहा था आपका मुझे कि आप स्टार्ट इतने खूबसूरती से कोई रिलेशनशिप करते हैं ना आप कि हाँ देखो सोच समझ के मुझसे रब उठाना, मुझ पर मरने वाली लड़की मर जाती है। इतना ख्याल रखो प्लीज।
है. अस्तगफुरुल्लाह. इस शेर का इस जगह पर कोई ताल्लुक नहीं था. That you know,
मुझे याद आ गया।
the the downside of having the host as your friend. Yeah.
या अच्छा सर, अगर आपकी इजाजत हो तो एक दो क्वेश्चंस हैं, ऑल्दो कि टाइम हमारा फिनिश हो चुका है, वी हैव टेकन द लास्ट क्वेश्चन बट स्टिल इफ देयर वी
Four.
हैव सम टाइम।
We have max 4 minutes exact.
कैन a haunted house be converted back to a safe place or a home,
Wow,
especially if there's
all,
something's
all,
happened
all,
to children, very bad things to children such as a girl, and some physical stuff happened to her.
seriously traumatic. Seriously traumatic,
Yeah.
and some wounds can never be repaired.
Hmm.
The rule would remain: if we can ensure 100% safety of any
Yeah.
victim in that situation, only then we can even start to think of making that haunted place a home again. If not, अल्लाह की जमीन बहुत वसी है, इसीलिए कहा जाता है घर किसी भी और जगह पर बन जाता है और बन सकता है, और नया घर बनाने
Hmm.
में कम मेहनत लगती है पुराने रबल्स को उठा के उनकी ईंटें फेंक कर और उनमें खतरनाक चीजों को, उन सांपों को और उन बिच्छुओं को मारते मारते ही आपके 6 साल और गुजर जाते हैं, तो आप रबल पे क्या खड़ा करेंगे. Trauma, physical trauma, or maybe it was a reference to a sexual trauma, maybe, but whatever, um, that is terrible. That is not a safe place. That I have all my doubts can be a home again.
Okay. Is there any tool to predict all these variables before getting into a relationship? Before
Oh,
getting into a relationship.
yes. Yes, provided you are talking to the other person, provided it was not your amma abba who decided for your shadi, then you can, of
Hmm.
course, because you stay with the other person and you will actually pick up on how are you coming together, um, whether the other क्या criticism उसमें पहले से आ रहा है या नहीं आ रहा है, और क्या उसमें contempt तो नहीं हो रहा और eye rolls तो नहीं हो रहे, defensiveness तो नहीं हो रही. The person is ready to take or admit responsibility for whatever he has done, his share part. And that is not अब मैं तो ऐसे ही हूँ और stone walls away. तो अगर ये पहले से नजर आ रहा है तो फिर तो नजर आ रहा है. उसके बाद अगर आप जा रहे हैं तो फिर आप आंखों देखी मक्खी निकल रहे हैं. पहले से प्रिडिक्ट हो सकता है,
सही।
बशर्ते कि आपकी अरेंज मैरिज नहीं है. तो अरेंज मैरिज में फिर वही है कि मुझसे बिछड़ते वक्त वो बस इतना कह सकी, देखो हमारी खैर है, माँ बाप खुश रहे.
माँ बाप खुश रहे, क्या बात, क्या बात। Okay, how do you deal with the fact that you have no one but yourself to blame for the haunted place that your home has become?
First of all, a very brave step. I appreciate that. It is a courageous step to think that you are the one responsible for that. So if you can make it one way, you can surely make it the other way, break by break, step by step, by healing yourself first.
ब्यूटीफुल। सवाल बहुत हैं, मैं एक क्वेश्चन ले लेता हूँ। What should we do when someone want love marriage but due to family pressures we agree for arranged marriage? Should we end our love?
Yes,
माँ
when you
बाप
have
खुश
some,
रहें।
no, no, more than that, radical acceptance, the scientific principle.
हम्म।
This is how it is. Own your decision. You have taken a decision. Own your decision.
या
Then live it. It's not about कि आप आगे जा रहे हैं. Life cannot be lived looking through the rear window or the back
ओके,
view mirror.
अगर आपकी इजाजत हो तो हम एक क्वेश्चन आपसे और ले लें। सर,
Last.
you mentioned many windows. One of these was peace of mind. What was the other?
हाँ, I said whether it is worth the pain, worth the pleasure, worth the price that you pay, worth the pride, and worth the peace of your mind.
जबरदस्त। अच्छा, जो लोग अभी आए हैं उनको मैं बता दूं कि इस सेशन के हमने रिकॉर्ड किया है सर की परमिशन के साथ, और हम इसको यूट्यूब पे इसको अपलोड करेंगे। और इसका जो लिंक है वो हम शेयर करेंगे सर साजिद के साथ, वो फिर आपके साथ शेयर कर देंगे फर्दर। कुछ लोग आपसे अपॉइंटमेंट्स जा रहे हैं, वो उनको मैंने बता दिया कि मैं आपको कनेक्ट करवा दूंगा। सर, आई थिंक दैट्स द एंड ऑफ इट, द क्वेश्चंस आर डन। इफ देयर इज एनी क्वेश्चन आई मिस, आई एम सॉरी। अब हम और क्वेश्चन ले नहीं सकते क्योंकि डॉक्टर साजिद रहीम ने ऑलरेडी कहीं जाना है, उनकी कमिटमेंट है, और हम उनको मजीद पहले ही काफ़ी लेट कर चुके हैं। वंस अगेन सर, थैंक यू सो मच। थैंक यू फॉर बीइंग हियर ऑन आवर इनविटेशन एंड वी होप टू सी यू मोर विद अस ऑन दिस फोरम। ऑल्दो ये फेसबुक लाइव नहीं है जहाँ पे थाउजेंड ऑफ फॉलोअर्स आपके आएंगे, लेकिन ये एक जूम है, इस पर भी आज काफ़ी अच्छी प्रेजेंस है हमारे पास। आई हैव सीन मोर देन 100 पीपल हियर, सो दैट्स अ गुड नंबर फॉर जूम। वंस अगेन सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच।
My player, दिलों से खौफ निकाला गया था बचपन में।
बचपन मैं यही
हमें
कहना चाह रहा
हवा
था कि अब
हमें
आपने।
हमें हवा में उछाला गया था बचपन में। मैं
वाह,
इसलिए भी समझता हूँ हिजरतों का दुख। मुझे भी घर से निकाला गया था बचपन में। ये
क्या
सब्र
कहने।
मेरी तबीयत में ऐसे आया है। हर एक बात पे टाला गया था बचपन में।
सुभान
आपके
अल्लाह।
नाम है कि वो अब किसी से संभाले नहीं संभलता है, जिसे ज्यादा संभाला गया था बचपन में।
वाह वाह वाह,
और
क्या बात।
मीजान के नाम है कि तुम्हारे बाद मुझे तितलियों से खौफ आया। अगरचे शौक ये पाला गया था बचपन में।
क्या कहने।
और
क्या कहने।
बताऊं बताऊं क्या।
जो ताल्लुक है।
ताल्लुक पत्थरों से मेरा। बताऊं
पत्थरों
क्या
से
जो
मेरा।
ताल्लुक है पत्थरों से मेरा। इन्हें भी घर में उबाल आ गया था बचपन में।
उबाला गया था
थैंक
बचपन में।
थैंक यू वेरी मच
अच्छा,
फॉर हैविंग मी
और
हियर।
जाते जाते अगर अगर अपनी ताज़ा तीन गजल के कुछ अशार सुना दे सकते हम आपसे, आपको इजाजत देंगे
ताजा
फिर हम।
ताजा तरीन गजल के। ओके।
या चलें जो भी आपको।
हाँ, मैं सुना देता हूँ कि उसने बोला तो है। उसने बोला है रहो मेरे करीं ऐसे ही।
हाँ।
उसने बोला है रहो मेरे करीं ऐसे ही। सोचता हूँ कि कहा हो न कहीं ऐसे ही।
वाह वाह वाह।
और तू तू यकीनन किसी शायर की मोहब्बत होगी।
हाँ।
तू यकीनन किसी शायर की मोहब्बत होगी। कौन होता है भला इतना हसी ऐसे ही।
क्या बात है।
और तुझको भी जख्म दिखाने
ये
ही पड़े
ये
हैं
शेर आपने,
अफसोस।
ये शेर मैं याद कर लूं, मैं जाके बेगम को सुनाऊंगा सर, जरा याद करूं, दोबारा रिपीट कर दें सर प्लीज।
तो यकीनन किसी शायर की मोहब्बत होगी। तो यकीनन किसी शायर की मोहब्बत होगी। कौन होता है भला इतना हंसी ऐसे ही।
क्या
और
बात
आगे से भाभी ने वापस तुम्हें शेर सुनाना है कि तुझको भी जख्म दिखाने ही पड़े हैं अफसोस।
है। हाँ।
तुझको भी जख्म दिखाने ही पड़े हैं अफसोस। मैं तो समझा था तू कर लेगा यकीन ऐसे ही।
ऐसे ही। बहुत
वाह,
आला। बहुत
इतने
आला।
ही याद आ रहे हैं। तो इतने ही, और अब वक्त बहुत देर हो चुकी है।
सर वंस अगेन बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। और आखिर में ये जो आपने बहुत खूबसूरत शायरी हमें सुनाई, इसके लिए स्पेशल शुक्रिया मेरी ख़ास फरमाइश पे। और इंशाल्लाह आपके साथ हमारे सेशंस फर्दर चलते रहेंगे, और आपको लोग मुबाहिस के
इंशाल्लाह।
फोरम पे मजीद देखते रहेंगे। तो वंस
इंशाल्लाह।
अगेन सर, थैंक यू सो मच। और तमाम अहबाब का शुक्रिया जो कि यहाँ मौजूद रहे। आप सबके लिए व्हाट्सअप लिंक, व्हाट्सअप कह रहा हूँ, यूट्यूब लिंक आपको शेयर कर दिया जाएगा मुबाहिस के प्लेटफॉर्म पे, लिंक्डइन पे जाके इसको लाइक कीजिए। और मैं मुबाहिस का मैसेज देख रहा था कि जो उसको लाइक करेगा तमाम फर्दर इवेंट्स में उनको स्पेशल डिस्काउंट्स दिए जाएंगे। खासकर अगर सर साजिद रहीम अगर आ गए तो उनको 50% डिस्काउंट देंगे, मैंने ऐड कर दिया अपनी तरफ से। राइट सर, वंस अगेन
ओके,
बहुत शुक्रिया।
थैंक यू, टेक केयर, अल्लाह हाफिज।